What's up, everyone? We are back for some more Mecha BREAK gameplay. Gonna be playing on Longmin launch site, the other payload map today. And yes, we're gonna be playing as Welkin. It's finally time to address the elephant in the room. And I've talked about Welkin briefly in past videos. I did make a video for him in a past beta, but as you probably know, many people consider Welkin to be the best striker in the game. He is the top tier. And there are some people who feel Stellaris deserves that title more, probably based on what they're playing. If you're a Falcon main, you probably don't love Welkin, but Stellaris has a little bit of an easier time hunting you down, so I can see why some people make that argument. But I agree with the opinion that Welkin is the best. That's how I feel, and I don't think I'm biased in that either, because I play quite a bit of Welkin, and obviously, as you all do, we all play against him a fair amount as well, so I think that's a pretty fair, unbiased opinion of him coming from me, because he's one of my favorites to play, and I gotta acknowledge that he is incredibly strong and probably deserving of that top spot. But before we start diving in too much into exactly what makes him so top tier in his current state, at least in my mind, I'd want to give a little bit of a history on Welkin, because he changed quite a bit from the closed beta over a year ago into the first open beta, so most of you probably didn't get a chance to try him out in his original state, and I didn't make a video on him either, so I have nothing to reference back on, but he was a fair amount different. The main game plan of put people in the box and hit them with your axe was always there. That hasn't changed, but he did have a different primary ranged weapon. He didn't have the howitzer he had before. He had like a wrist rocket, something like that, which, as far as I remember, didn't seem like it hit very hard, but Welkin had other problems, and I didn't play him a whole lot in that beta. But he did still have the box. He didn't. I think he still had the flashbang, if I remember right, but there was no defense field, and he was a lot squishier, and he had energy problems. But the big difference was he actually had this focused laser beam that shot out of his chest, kind of like an Inferno focused beam, and that was pretty good. It actually did a fair amount of damage from when I saw in that beta. That was how a lot of the Welkin players got their kills. But the problem was, since you weren't as tanky as you are now, you were very much a sitting duck while using that laser, because you were still this big old Welkin, probably even slower moving than I think you are now, and you would sit and fire that laser and everyone would just shoot you, and even though it did good damage, you'd just die like immediately. So the running opinion from everyone I talked to was that Welkin was possibly garbage tier in that beta. I know I definitely didn't have high opinions of him, if you can believe that, from where he's come to now. And the devs must have agreed, because they'd give him a bit of a rework, changing that primary ranged weapon, giving him eventually the defense seal. He didn't have that for the first open beta either. They had the boomerang drones and the box separated, but now those are combined, and that's kind of how we worked to get where we are today with the Welkin we all know and love, right? We all love him. I love him, although I also hate playing against him sometimes. But yeah, so let's talk about current Welkin and why things changed to make him as good as he is. So, yeah, he did get the change to the ranged weapon, which is not the thing that makes him busted, but it is a strong ranged option. It does pretty good damage, 10k per shot, blast damage, and fairly good tracking, even on moving targets. So if a Sky Raider or a Falcon is not doing their aerial maneuvers, you can kind of poke them as they're flying around. You can manually aim it too. I know there's been times where Falcons are doing their downward spiral, and I just poke at them with the howitzer while they're spinning there in place, because it's not too hard of a shot to hit, because it's got a fairly big projectile. And it also reloads fast, so you can use it while moving, you can use it while dashing forward with your melee attacks, so it's just a great poke tool. Very good, you know, if you're fighting a Tricera, you do have the option to do your spin to do good damage to him, even when he's in his turret mode, because he can't parry that. But you can also poke from a distance if you don't have the energy for that, or if he's guarded by a lot of other people, so you don't want to push in right yet. You can soften him up with that howitzer. So it's a nice option, not the best ranged weapon by any stretch of the imagination, but it is very good. But of course, the big highlight of being a melee character is Welkin's heavy battle axe. And some Welkin players will pretty much exclusively go through the spin, as you're seeing me and this enemy Welkin clash back and forth with our spins, and he's more committed to the spin than I am, which in this case is working out for him quite well. In general, I wouldn't recommend that. I think as you get against better players, which I'm failing to be in this moment, relying on the spin too much can be pretty predictable. People just kind of stay away from you and then come in and punish that. The downward slash being a great option if you're a melee, which Welkin is, so I could have done that against him there, and you might see me do it more later. But yeah, you have your regular melee string, which does comparable damage to Alisna's, I think. They're pretty similar damage numbers for those. You only have a 3-hit string, while Alisna's has 4, but unless someone's out of energy or locked down by other things, you're usually going to be just landing those first 2 hits like Alisna's does. And then if you hold it down, you have the spin, and the spin cannot be parried. It can clash with another Welkin spin, but it goes through shields, doesn't get blocked by that. But like I said before, the downward slash is kind of the answer to get through that without having to wait for it to end. So that is what a lot of better melee players will do, and that's why it can be risky to go for it all the time. It's also, even if they're not going directly to stop you from doing it with an option like that, or some other sort of stun, like Tricera's Howitzer also can knock you out of it. Anything like that that just applies a stun can also counter it. But just the fact that even if you got someone locked in the box, you're going to be spinning at the bottom because you can't do it in midair, and they're just going to jump to the top. So sometimes it's fine against certain targets, like a Stego or a Tricera. If you know someone's low on energy, you're going to get some fantastic damage by landing multiple spins on them. But if they do have ability to move around, it's sometimes better to just keep going for those regular melee hits, because they still hit pretty hard. And you saw I was able to do it against that Welkin there, although I think he may have been out of energy because he's fighting like basically everyone at once. But aside from the axe, the thing that really makes everything happen is the box, which that's not the name of it. It's called Dueling Force Field, but everyone I talk to calls it the box. And I like to refer to it as the Welkin box privilege, because there are so many times where I feel like I should not be able to get an objective, I shouldn't be able to get a kill in the middle of a group of enemies, all sorts of things like that, that it just feels like it's such a privilege to have the box. And when I'm not playing Welkin, I don't have my box privilege, and I have to play a little bit more careful in some situations. But I do feel like people are starting to learn that the box is not immortal. It does have a lot of HP. I think it's like 50k HP. But if everyone's focusing it, it does break fairly fast, so it's not unstoppable. But in like a 1v1 scenario, if I'm going to like cap an objective or something like that, and I'm up against like a Hurricane, what's he going to do? I'm pretty sure even with his split lasers going and him spamming his left click, it's probably not going to get through the box in time. And even if it does, I've got that other defensive ability that we haven't even talked about that can also help deal with energy attacks and things like that. But yeah, the main game plan of Welkin is to kind of do what I've been doing for a lot of these flyers, is you use the melee dash to get up close after you get that first hit secure, or slightly before it. If you're too quick with it, sometimes you won't quite get them, but you pop the box at the same time. Then he tries to dash away, if they even got the energy for it, and then you have to track them in the box and follow up with your regular melees, which is made easier by the fact that boomerang drones will fly around and also stagger them in place, so you don't have to completely aim on your own. But good players will typically go to the top of the box to avoid if you're spinning, and they'll try and kind of move around a lot if they've got the energy for it, and it can be hard to track them. I think that could be one of the reasons why running a higher sensitivity on Welkin could be helpful, because I know people are pretty fast. I have a hard time tracking, so it can be the difference between life or death, whether he just kills you in one box or if he has to hunt you down again after that. So that's something to practice, is moving around in the box to the best of your ability to not just get insta-killed by him. But we haven't even got through the whole description of his kit, and we are on to game 2 there. That ended up being a pretty dominant payload match there. Pretty unusual, though. It's especially now that I've gotten to champion rank, I feel like I see Stego Tricera almost every match, and not even just the payload matches, but like especially the payload matches. So the fact that there was, I think, just a Stego on our team and no turret guy on their team was certainly unusual. Didn't really get to show off how Welkin can excel on those payload maps as being one of the pretty better options for dealing with Stego Tricera on the cart. You can spin kind of at the foot of the cart and hit both of them and be at an angle that's hard for them to attack. It still takes a lot of damage to get through how defensive they are, but you can often force them to move at least if they can't focus you down and they don't have other allies attacking you. But speaking of spins, we're doing it right here, and they do have a Stego this time, getting a lot of big damage on him. He is one of my favorite targets for using that spin on, because he's going to have to try and turret up and get out before the next hit of the spin hits him, or else he's going to be kind of locked in place and you're going to get a lot of damage. But we also need to talk about the flashbang. You saw it happen right there. I used mine in response to it. So there's a few uses for that, and I call it flashbang the jamming pulse ejector, but that's easiest to describe it as a flashbang. But the first thing it flashbangs you. It screws with your targeting. It disorients you for a bit. But it also applies a stagger, and that stagger seems somewhat inconsistent. I feel like if people are like moving as you do it, they don't always get locked in place. But that can happen with melee and stuff too, depending on like latency and things like that. So it might not be too different than that. But it also destroys drones, so it actually makes you one of the better counters against yourself. Welkin versus Welkin, because the box is considered a drone. So if the other Welkin puts you in the box, or puts a teammate in the box, or he's trying to box off an objective, you walk up and hit that with the jamming Pulse Ejector, and it's gone. And that is one of the better answers to it. So I'm curious if we'll see more drone canceling stuff in the future. I could see the argument for it being needed with how strong Welkin's box is, but also if you played a character who's not Welkin against Welkin, and he does that to you, like Hurricane. Hurricane's, a lot of your stuff is considered drones. Your shield, I believe, is a drone. Your decoy shields are drones. Your drones that float up and shoot down lasers are drones. So that's a lot of your kit being neutralized by just one ability from Welkin, and that's already a bad matchup, even if he like doesn't have that. So I don't know. We'll see where they go with that. And then the final ability, which is also a huge one, and this is the new one he got only, I believe, the last beta before the release. He finally got this one, and that's the defense field. It's kind of similar in purpose to Panther's Conflict Shield. It doesn't cover your entire body, but it does block in front. It blocks melee attacks, so I think you can still be pushed by a Panther. It blocks just other attacks from the front. It also puts a field around you that kind of dissipates energy attacks. Sometimes energy attacks can get through. I think it really like depends on the angle, but I've shot from the back and I still feel like they don't always get through. But it is an incredibly good skill, and you can use it like Inferno's booster kit, where you pop it for a bit to get yourself out of a tough situation and then cancel it, and it'll have a really short cooldown. I know I've had like 4 or 5 second cooldowns if I use it and get out of it really quickly. So it is a very, very nice ability, and sometimes you do want to save it for like that panic option when you're maybe another melee guy's on top of you, or you're getting focused by some energy stuff. But I also like to use it sometimes even when I'm in the box, just to help guarantee that I'm getting an objective. It's also good against Tricera if the Tricera player knows what they're doing and they're saving their howitzer shots. If you try and go and spin up next to them, they'll hit you with all 3 of their howitzer shots at once, and that will take away your fluid armor and actually do some damage to you and put you in a pretty scary spot. So sometimes I'll pop that preemptively when I'm approaching a Tricera before I do the spin, because that will eat all 3 of those shots, and I'll be perfectly fine to continue spinning on top of them after that. But yeah, all of that stuff together makes Welkin very strong. He does have some energy issues, but it's really not that bad. Like, it's not much worse than the other. I mean, he doesn't have a booster kit like Panther to restore energy on the fly, but no one else does either. That's just a Panther thing. Well, Inferno a bit too, but, you know, just among the melees. So, yeah, he's, I'd say the biggest counter to Welkin is kind of himself, and also just team play. Welkin excels with a team, because you can put people in the box, and then other people can focus as well. That's another thing I didn't even talk about the box. Like, it functions as a shield, so no enemies can shoot into it. I mean, some abilities like Panaka's walls can go through it. If Illuminate is on like right next to the box, the aura damage, the ability they have, will go through it and deal some damage. But you can't target people for healing. There's been plenty of times where I'm Panaka and I try and use my bubble on someone as a Welkin goes on, and the box comes up first, and then I'm just bubbling myself and I can't help. But your allies can shoot into the box, and that allows you to get these huge punishes where Welkins will often start the fight by initiating and just getting one person in the box. And even if Welkin himself can't land like all the melees, or they just get like the 2 hits, you could have a Falcon shooting into the box. If you're really coordinated or lucky, you can get another melee in the box with you, and then that's really scary for whoever's in there. So that is the best thing, I think, that Welkin really brings to the table, is the box on top of everything else. And I've seen some pretty annoying team comps to deal with, people in like the TDM maps, the Sky City maps, where they'll run a very defensive comp, like Tricera, 2 healers, Welkin, and then maybe like an Aquila, and I don't even know who to fill the other slot. But the point is, they're very tanky. Maybe they'll throw a Stego in there too. They have decent damage, but they're not very mobile, and they kind of all stick together and keep healing and staying alive. And then when they catch someone just slightly out of position, Welkin will dive into them, pop the box, and everyone will rush and shoot the person in the box to get a quick kill. And that's an effective strategy. But like I was saying, it's also what's effective against Welkin. If your team all shoots the enemy Welkin box, they can break it fairly quickly, so you might not have enough time to get the kill. Without his box, he'll have to use his defense field if he's caught in an awkward spot, and then he might have to use some energy to dash away. And that's usually how you kill Welkin too. But having another Welkin helps as well because you can get the quick kill on the box with the flashbang. He's also can lock the other Welkin down in the box when he doesn't have his available, although sometimes you get the crossing boxes and things like that. But yeah, fairly quick match there, actually, while I was talking. I didn't even realize we were already counting up to the end there. Wow, I should have picked some longer games. I got a lot to say about Welkin, but I'm sure we'll see some future videos about him as well. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are. Do you also think he's top tier? I feel like most people I've talked to do, but I also feel that way. But I have heard a fair... I know Stellaris irritates people a lot. I don't know if it's necessarily them thinking he's top tier or just the fact that he's unfun to play against because of the cloaking and the grapple and things like that. But I think Welkin deserves his spot at the top. Just all parts of his kit really work well. He does have some defensive issues if you really focus him, but considering you still have to get through like 2 whole defensive cooldown abilities just to make that happen, it's not like most other characters would have survived if you dove them like that. So it's barely even be able to call it a weakness. One thing I will say though, if the Welkin's not going for spins, and this is true for all melee characters, if you see a melee guy going after your team and they're really diving them and your team's having a hard time getting away, if you are also a melee character, melee them in the back. As someone who plays a fair amount of melee strikers, that is the most annoying thing to deal with when you're trying to hunt people down with melee. It's just another melee guy hitting you in the back. It staggers you, it does damage, it allows the enemy to get a chance that you're hunting, a chance to get away. You might just spend more energy to go after them or get out. It's just, it's usually not that committal. You don't have to kill them. You just have to hit them a couple times to interrupt when they're attacking your allies. So that's my recommendation. I'm sorry I don't really have like a better counter for Welkin in my mind. I know Panther does okay against Welkin because he can do the downward slash and the lance to get through the spin. But it's still not like a free matchup. If Welkin's able to pay attention to you, it can go either way. But if he's focused on other things like objectives, I feel like a Panther hunting you from the skies can be pretty annoying to deal with. But that's all I'll say about Welkin for now, or else this video will go on forever, even though the gameplay has ended. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Do you hate Welkin? Do you love him? Are you back and forth like me, depending on whether you're playing him or not? I'm curious to know. But that's going to be it for this time. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.